Thank you for tuning in. My name is Victoria Axt. I'm going to be going over my project summary for CareerFoundry's Exercise 1.7. The project prompt was to create a new vocabulary learning app. Have you ever heard of different learning styles? I've been working in education for most of my adult life, and every time I hear people say they're only a visual learner, I lose a bit of hair. Psychologists and educators learned long ago that yes, there are different ways you can learn from visual, listening, or auditory, reading, or writing/kinesthetic exercises, but the truth is people do their best learning when presented with material in all four ways. Many learning apps out there overly rely on just listening, just reading, just writing, just visuals, and don't combine all four. Flexcard's flexible learning styles allow users to learn for life and not just memorize it in the moment. Flexcards is also useful on any device. If you're at home and want to turn your speakers up for listening modes, if you're waiting at the bus stop and want to check your memory with flashcards, or if you're at a cafe and want to practice your handwriting, Flexcards, writing mode, listening mode, and flashcard modes are ready to go. First, I want you to meet Audrey. Audrey has been in the game design industry for a few years now and knows all of her favorite work is coming out of Japanese companies. Audrey dreams of moving to Japan to work with the best of the best. She has been studying Japanese on her own and even went back to college night classes to make her dream a reality. Audrey is familiar with using online study tools to help her learn, but she is constantly going between practicing writing in her notebook, following along with recordings to practice her pronunciation, and making endless flashcards for all of her new vocabulary. Audrey also has about 6 different apps on her phone to help her learn Japanese right now, but because of her good eye for design, she dislikes almost all of them for being old, ugly, out of date, or difficult to use. I wanted to keep Audrey in mind when creating the Flexcards app. Audrey's biggest goals are having multiple repeated ways to experience new words or vocabulary, and having one app that keeps her learning organized across all of her devices. Her biggest pet peeves right now are ugly apps or one of those one-trick apps that feel incomplete on their own, such as apps that only teach her one writing system or only have one study function. And Audrey, who feels challenged learning a new language, needs a way to practice listening, writing, and reading new vocabulary in order to become fully fluent. But she faces disorganization and disjointed learning because she cannot find a single app that supports all the learning modes. We believe that by creating one app that includes handwriting, listening, and flashcard features with pre-made or textbook-aligned word lists for Audrey, she'll be able to achieve her goal of being able to get a job as a bilingual game developer in America or Japan. Before jumping in, I did some research on some of the popular study apps out there. When looking at Anki App, Study Blue, and Quizlet, I found many features like the create new options were repeated on every screen and felt very visually cluttered. My initial competitive analysis found that many decent features and study tools are out there, but the apps still have usability issues, like Anki App and Study Blue, or as I saw with all 3 of them, they don't have a flashcard app integrated with writing features or stroke order when learning new words. I began mapping out how a new user like Audrey may sign up and create their own study tools. Most users are familiar with onboarding processes such as the one I outlined here. I wanted to make sure most key features such as home or study buttons were available at the bottom navigation so that they would be similar to the industry standard. When integrating newer technologies such as Apple Pencils or other stylus tools to help users practice their handwriting and stroke order, I wanted to give a quick pop-up reminder to sync the new tool and allow the user to pull theirs out. However, I didn't want this feature to prohibit anyone from learning the correct stroke order of a letter or character, so I included the button option to practice using with your finger. Now that I had my basic user flows mapped out, I began brainstorming the other features of my navigation bar and the important items visible on the home screen and main menu pages. My initial user test through onboarding went super smoothly. However, their first and most important task was a catastrophic failure. I asked them to open up a study page and begin studying. Take a look at my bottom navigation. I have it labeled as a house for home, a light bulb for learning, a star for favorites, and a person for profile. As a former educator, I had always envisioned learning as a light bulb moment, so to me, the icon for the learning page made perfect sense. As it turns out, every one of my user testers were stuck and confused when trying to find a learning or study page. As it turns out, my preconceived idea of learning as a light bulb was not as universal as an open book, and so I was quick to make the change. Prototype 2 went a little more smoothly. Users from my last test also expressed a desire for the Create New or My List buttons to be easily viewable from the homepage. Based on my initial competitor analysis, I thought it would look toward eliminating the repetition, but I'm learning that important functions need to be repeated for the ease of users. They never want to go digging for something they do often. My third prototype moved the Create New option down as a fifth navigation button. I wanted this to operate differently than the other nav buttons and instead pop up for users. Clicking away from the pop-up allows you to stay on the page you are on. Moving the plus to the navigation was the happy medium between having the Create New button at the top of every landing page and feeling too repetitive versus having users need to dig into the profile to find the option to create a new set. Looking ahead at the next steps for my Flexcard app, it's going to be important for me to populate my prototype with different subjects so I can continue testing the different functions. I'm going to look toward having potential users add their own sets so that they can be tested, and I hope to be able to run many more rounds of usability testing to ensure each of the mini Flexcard functions are going strong. I would also like to partner with a designer to refine my next prototype and ensure it is visually up to par with the competition. And so, when reflecting back on the process of my first project as a UX designer, I'm left with 5 hard truths. Number 1, no one will use even the best features in an amazing app if they can't find them. It's important to make sure that users don't have to do too much digging. Number 2, my ideas are not universal. I was absolutely floored when no one saw the light bulb as learning. And when I went to Google to back up my internalized iconography, I was left with a lot more researching to do. Number 3, some of my ideas are just plain bad. This goes along with the above example. Number 4, people hate being wrong even if it's not a real test. The frustrations felt by my user testers despite being told there were no wrong answers were still very real. Number 5, if a new user says that something feels familiar the first time they're using it, that is good. You've made a good design. That is all. Thank you for listening in on my project summary for CareerFoundry's exercise 1.7. Bye-bye.